Hello friends, my name is Ralph and this is the Behringer 2600 Gray Meanie and this is the Arturia MicroBrute RED. As far as looks are concerned, these two synthesizers make a very attractive couple. But what's about the inner values and qualities? Can the Behringer 2600 and the Arturia MicroBrute connect on a deeper level? So let's find out in today's video. When I attend synthesizer meetings and live sessions, I have noticed that one of the most common synthesizers that people bring along is the Arturia MicroBrute. The MicroBrute has a little patch field called the mod matrix, where you can connect various modulation sources and destinations. You can also connect external gear to this mod matrix. And that's where the Behringer 2600 Gray Meanie comes into play. So let's jump into some patching. Alright, now we are looking here at the Behringer 2600 Gray Meanie, to which I have connected an Arturia keystep via MIDI. And over here we are looking at the Arturia MicroBrute RED. Since I will be going through the patch rather quickly, I assume that you have some basic understanding about subtractive synthesis, modular synthesizers, and preferably also about the Behringer 2600 or the ARP 2600 or any other 2600 clone. Moreover, I assume that you are vaguely familiar with the Arturia MicroBrute. Since the oscillator section and the mod matrix are essential to our patch, I will make a recap about these two sections. So here on the MicroBrute RED we have one oscillator which outputs 4 waveforms. And you can also alter these waveforms. So let's go through the waveforms one by one. We start with the Overtone waveform. And here is the modifier changing from sub to fifth. Then we have a Sawtooth waveform and an ultra saw modifier which changes the waveform. Then we have a pulse waveform, and then here you can set the width of the pulse. And finally we have here a triangle waveform and a metallizer which alters and changes the triangle waveform. Okay, now let's move to the mod matrix, which is a little patch field. On the mod matrix you have two CV outputs. You have an envelope CV output and an LFO CV output. The pre-wire connection is that the envelope modulates the metallizer. So here okay, this is now the envelope modulating the metallizer, and this has a pre-wire connection. And then the LFO is also pre-wired to modulate the pitch of the oscillator. Okay, then we also have here, let's go through the inputs on the CV inputs on the mod matrix. We have an input for the metallizer. We have an input to modulate the saw waveform. We have an input to modulate the sub of the overtone waveform. Then we also have an input to modulate the pulse width here. Then we have an input to modulate the filter. And then we also have an input to modulate the pitch. But as I said before, the pre-wired connection is the LFO modulating the pitch and the envelope modulating the metallizer. What we are going to do now, we take modules from the Behringer 2600 to modulate various parts of the Arturia MicroBrute. So why are we going to do that? What is the advantage? Well, since we have various modules, they can modulate independently from each other, and thereby it's possible to create a more powerful, richer and saturated sound. So the first thing we are going to do is that we take the sine wave form output of VCO number 3 here on the Behringer 2600, set the VCO number 3 to low frequency range so that it is acting as an LFO. We take the sine wave output and plug it here into the pulse width modulation slot on the mod matrix of the Arturia MicroBrute. For this, we bring up the pulse waveform. So you can hear VCO number 3 of the Behringer 2600 modulating the pulse width of the the pulse output of the Arturia MicroBrute. So the next thing we are going to do is that we take the LFO of the Behringer 2600, the sine output here, and then we plug the signal into the subslot here on the Arturia MicroBrute. For this, we bring up the Overtone output on the Arturia MicroBrute. And you can hear how the LFO is modulating the overtone waveform of the VCO of the MicroBrute. We can combine this now with the pulse output. And you already hear how the sound is getting pretty powerful and rich. Can bring in the brute factor on the filter. And now we are going to modulate the Sawtooth waveform of the MicroBrute. For this, we take another LFO output here on the Behringer 2600, and that is the triangle waveform output. Since I want to use this LFO signal on the Arturia MicroBrute as well as on the Behringer 2600, I need a multiplier to duplicate the signal. So I connect here the output with the multiplier, and then I connect another cable, plug it here into the lag section of the voltage processor, and then I take the lag output and plug it here into the saw slot of the mod matrix of the MicroBrute. So, why am I using the lag slider for the triangle LFO signal, because here we already used the sine wave to modulate the waveform, the sub-waveform of the MicroBrute, and I want to separate these waveforms a little bit. I'm going through the lag slider. So when I bring in here the various waveforms, the overtone waveform, and also the pulse waveform, I get a pretty rich and powerful sound. But now back to the Behringer 2600. I told you I want to use the triangle LFO signal also here on the Behringer 2600. So I use another cable connected to the multiplier, and I use this signal to modulate the pulse width here on the Behringer 2600, and that is VCO number 2. This is VCO number 2 playing the pulse output. I connect here the cable to the pulse width modulation slot, and now you can hear how the LFO is modulating the pulse width of VCO number 2 of the Behringer 2600. Okay, then what else can I do here on the Behringer 2600? I can bring in VCO number 1 to modulate also the frequency of VCO number 2, and also bring in VCO number 1 in the filter mixer. So this is also a pretty rich and aggressive sound. I bring in some reverb. As a reminder, I'm playing these keys here, these notes on the Arturia key step, which is connected to the Behringer 2600 via MIDI. But now let's move on to the final step, and that is modulating the filter of the Arturia MicroBrute. And for that, we are going to use the sample and hold module of the Behringer 2600. So we take this sample and hold output, and since I want to use the sample and hold signal again on the Arturia MicroBrute as well as on the Behringer 2600, I need another multiplier. So I connect the multiplier to the sample and hold output, and then let me change the cables. Yeah, okay, plugging sample and hold output, connecting it with the multiplier, connecting another cable to the multiplier, and then connecting it here, running it into the filter slot of the mode matrix here on the MicroBrute. And now listen. Now you hear the sample and hold module modulating the filter of the MicroBrute. Okay, and finally, we also use the sample and hold signal here on the VCF of the Behringer 2600. So we connect another cable here with the multiplier that duplicates the sample and hold signal and plug it here into the control section of the VCF. So this is now the Behringer 2600. Now Now the filter of the Behringer 2600 is being modulated by the sample and hold module. And now I also use the sample and hold module to trigger the envelopes of the Behringer 2600. Okay. And now let's play the MicroBrute. Now let's bring in the reverb here on the Behringer 2600. Okay, these were the Behringer 2600 and the Arturia MicroBrute playing together without any effects. And the MicroBrute sections are being modulated by various parts of the Behringer 2600. And now a little jam playing the Behringer 2600 Gray Meanie and Arturia MicroBrute RED through a chorus and a delay. So what do you think about the Behringer 2600 Gray Meanie and the Arturia MicroBrute RED? Are they a great synthesizer couple or just a good team? Kindly let me know in the comment section. I'm interested to hear your opinion. And if you happen to have some patching experience with the MicroBrute and the Behringer 2600, then please share your patching ideas in the comment section as well. I think your ideas will be highly appreciated by the community. Before I sign off, let me tell you, if you are interested to learn something about the Behringer 2600 or the ARP 2600, then you have come to the right place. I have a bunch of tutorials here on my YouTube channel, so please make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and also make sure that you hit that bell button. And if you wish, you may also want to follow me on Instagram and Twitter. As always, thank you very much for watching. I hope I see you again in my next video. Until then, take care, stay safe, peace.